Hello, Jay here, and welcome to my Star Citizen bounty hunting experiment, where we'll be testing whether it's possible to take in a bounty target alive from a ship mission. So if that's something that you've ever been curious about, stick around and we will find out. So let's get to it. So at the moment, there isn't an additional benefit to taking a bounty in alive. It's just something to do for fun really, or something to do for the challenge of it. Potentially it's a way of practicing for bounty hunting 1.0, so when bounty hunting is actually fully developed and fleshed out. At the moment we just have a kind of bare bones bounty hunting tier 0, where all we need to do is go to where it tells us the bounty is and then neutralize the bounty. Bounty hunting will be a lot more interesting once it's fully developed, and I'll do a video in the future discussing that. Let's get to this bounty. So I'm using a Vanguard Sentinel here as my bounty hunting ship of choice, and I've got a distortion setup. So I have 4 size 2 distortion weapons, and then I have a size 5 energy repeater as my main DPS. But I've realized it's a little bit too underpowered against shields, so I'm flying up out of the atmosphere here to get a bit more maneuverability, and hopefully I can just pick them off one by one if I keep my distance. Now normally if you had a Vanguard with full energy weapons, or even a mix of energy weapons and ballistics, taking down 2 Cutlass Blacks and a Freelancer would pretty much be a piece of cake. But with having most of your weapons be distortion weapons, it's actually proving to be a little bit challenging. So what I'd probably do differently in the future is have all my weapons be energy weapons and then use the EMP as my distortion dealer. It's probably a more viable option against any kind of ship that has decent shields really. So here I'm just disabling the bounty target, and then I'll move on to the Freelancer since that's out of range. So if we look on the right side of the screen, we will start to see the EM signature of the target drop, which signifies that they should be disabled. So we'll move on to the Freelancer. Now Freelancers have pretty beefy shields. I think they have 3 size 2 shields, so it will take a while to get them down using mostly distortion weapons, but we do eventually do that. They are disabled, so it's just a matter of finishing them off, and then we can go back to the target and find out once and for all whether we can take a bounty alive from a ship. Now I'll just pop off a few more distortion rounds just to make sure they're definitely disabled. We don't want them flying away once we start EVAing up to them. Not entirely sure if EVAing is a word, but we'll go with it. But they should definitely be disabled now. So let's go find out. So now is the moment of truth. Can we take a bounty alive from a ship mission? Now I've taken a bounty alive from an on-foot entrenched bounty mission before. That's pretty straightforward, and it's good to have that as an option, as a way of kind of practicing for bounty hunting 1.0, having a bit of fun with it. But let's see if it's possible to do it from a ship, which is a bit more complex. Now at this point I notice a massive oversight on my part, and that is that Cutlasses have elevated pilot seats, so punching the bounty is potentially not an option, and that's the only way that I know of when it comes to knocking out an NPC basically. Either that or takedowns, and I definitely don't think we can do a takedown on this NPC. So let's see if we can find some way of punching the bounty or reaching them. I'm trying to jump up here, but that is not working. So let's see if we can maybe punch him from the ground. I'm gonna have to think of something, but yeah, that's gonna cause a problem. If we were essentially doing this in a different ship, it could be fine, but let's see if we can make it work, since I've gone through so much just to get to this point. But yeah, I don't think that's actually making contact, unfortunately, so I'll just speed this up and see if we can find some way of knocking them out. But it doesn't seem like I'm able to actually reach them, so unfortunately I have to resort to plan B. At this point, I also noticed that the mission hasn't actually completed, and I can see that the bounty assignment is actually attached to the ship and not actually to an NPC, which is a little bit disappointing. And I'm not sure if that's a bug. I'm not sure if that's just the way it's supposed to be. I do remember in the past that it was attached to NPCs specifically in ships because people used to complete Vaughn missions without getting crime stat free by punching NPCs in the pilot seat. So not sure if it's a bug, but we'll just complete the mission, maybe try again. And I've destroyed a ship here, which I thought would complete the mission if the bounty is attached to the ship, but it doesn't seem to have completed, so I'll make sure it's definitely destroyed. And that should be completely destroyed, but the mission hasn't actually completed. So it would seem like this mission is bugged. I'm not sure if it became bugged because I lured the bounty too far away from the target location by kind of taking them up into the atmosphere. But that could possibly be why the bounty target icon was targeted to the ship and not the actual NPC. I know that in the past, when people used to do Vaughn missions and they would want to avoid a crime stat free, they would sneak into the ship and then basically just knock out the NPC in the pilot seat, and that would actually complete the mission. But maybe that's changed, maybe it's bugged, so we might have to test this again, unfortunately. But yeah, would seem like it's an inconclusive result, or perhaps we can't, but I'm not entirely sure just because the mission did seem bugged. So I think I'll try it again, and this time just try it on a different ship, a ship that isn't a Cutlass Black. But thanks for watching. If you find this interesting, leave a like and maybe subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video.